Hey guys, it's Alan. Hope everybody's doing well. Today I'm not talking about cars, I'm talking about airline travel. My family went to Uganda end of June and returned in early July, and being in Uganda itself was fantastic. We went and had a wedding. I got to see a bunch of my cousins who I haven't seen in 5 years, so it was a lot of fun. But the traveling to Uganda and back to Minneapolis specific were less than ideal. So on our trip to Uganda, we were supposed to travel on Sunday, June 19th, I believe it was. We got to the airport on time, and Delta staff basically moved us around the airport, and eventually an hour before the flight, despite them having our passports and us being in the middle of the check-in process, they decided to tell us that there was nothing they could do for us, and they kicked us off the flight. And my wife called them the next day and they said that our flight was canceled, and we know that's not true because the plane actually went to Amsterdam. They just went without my family of 6. We rebooked the flight for the following Tuesday. They gave us a 30-minute layover in Amsterdam, which if you've ever traveled, you know it's not possible to have a 30-minute layover, but we decided to accept it because we wanted to get to Amsterdam. At least that way they would have to take us the rest of the way. Upon arriving to Amsterdam, of course, the plane lands. It takes it 15 minutes to get to the terminal. At least KLM had somebody at the gate waiting for us. My wife took our younger kids straight to the airplane. I had to wait for our strollers and whatnot to show up. As soon as I had them, me and our older 2 daughters just ran straight to the airplane, got there, was sweating, found out that my wife and the other kids were grouped together, but me and my 6-year-old daughter were separate, and there were only 2 seats left. We were the last people on the plane, so I saw the 2 seats that me and my daughter had. Fortunately, there was a passenger back there who let us take 2 seats, and he went and sat in our other seat, so that was okay. When we got to Entebbe, that's where the airport is in Uganda, so we get to Entebbe, we find out that all 10 of our checked bags did not make the trip. We had the wedding on Saturday, we arrived on Wednesday. Our bags arrived on Friday night. Flight usually lands around 10:30, 11 p.m. So my wife and her brother had to go back to the airport, which isn't close to their house in Kampala, and pick up the bags, which had some stuff for the wedding on Saturday. That was going to Entebbe. So coming back from Uganda was an even worse experience somehow. Taking the KLM flight from Entebbe to Amsterdam Schiphol was fine. We got to the airport on time again, like we always do. Got all of our bags checked, got on the plane. It was a little late, but no big deal. We had a scheduled 4-hour layover in Amsterdam. So we get to Amsterdam. Soon as we get there, we find out that our flight from Amsterdam to Minneapolis has been delayed 4 hours. So now we have a scheduled 8-hour layover with our 4 young children, which it's not fun, but we figure we'd manage. We'd find a way to entertain them while we're in the airport. I looked up where the plane was in the Delta app because it shows you that, and it showed that our plane was in Utah, which is not near Amsterdam, Salt Lake City. So so anyway, I'm tracking the plane, trying to figure out, and I tell my wife, this is not going to be a 4-hour delay. And sure enough, it wasn't a 4-hour delay. So eventually the plane shows up. It's lost its gate ticket, so it parks out in the middle of the airport. Eventually, after a delay to the delay, they took us in a bunch of buses out to the airport on the tarmac. We walked up the steps, old school style. We got on the plane, and we ended up sitting on the tarmac for just about 2 hours, and it was kind of ludicrous. It was like the manager at McDonald's calling a bunch of 16-year-olds to see who could come in and work the shift. The pilot gets on with us and tells us our clock is about to expire, but what we're thinking about doing is flying this plane to Detroit, getting new pilots there, and then the new pilots will take you from Detroit to Minneapolis. We were like, okay, that sucks, but at least we'll be in the United States, and we won't have to go through customs and whatnot in Detroit. They'll just bring new pilots on. About another 20-25 minutes of that, and they just called it. They said, sorry guys, we can't find new pilots. There's nothing we can do for you. This flight is canceled. Please return to the terminal. And they called the buses back. The buses took us back to the terminal at Schiphol, and that's where things get really, really interesting. They told us that they would have new tickets for us at 9 p.m. and this was in the middle of the day. But 9 p.m. come back, we'll have new tickets for you, and we'll give you hotel vouchers. We run around. I ended up, I was supposed to be at work already, so I decided to attend a meeting via WebEx since we were in the airport with nothing to do and nowhere to go. They scheduled our flight for 8 a.m. the next morning, and they gave my wife a hotel voucher. She is a permanent resident of the United States, but not a citizen. But they assured her, the people at KLM, that we would be able to get a temporary visa to go into Amsterdam for one night to stay in the hotel that they they gave us. So we hang out with police and airport security. They take us down to the place where they process visas. They say it's going to be an hour. Hour passes, another hour passes. And then at around midnight, they come and tell us that visas are approved, but the head honcho needs to do one more approval. And Mr. Head Honcho, we can't find him anywhere in the airport. He's busy with other stuff. About midnight to 1 o'clock, they said it would be at least another hour before the visa was approved. So midnight, 1 o'clock, we decide that we're just going to go and sleep in the airport because we can't arrive at the hotel at 2 a.m., sleep for 2 hours, and then be back at the airport at 5 o'clock. That just didn't make sense with 4 little kids. So we go back into the terminal. We had to go through security again, despite the fact that we had been hanging out with airport security and Dutch police for the last 3 hours, and they asked the same stupid questions every single time you have to go through security. Where did you get this? Blah, 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 blah. And we're trying to explain to these idiots that we've been in the airport for 24 hours. We've not gone anywhere. We've been hanging out with the police. Literally nothing to do. We can't have brought anything in from outside the airport because we never left the airport. But they were kind of rude. They were even more rude than the normal Dutch standard. It is what it is. So we go and find a place to sleep. We look for the KLM people, but unfortunately they have all dispersed by now because it's like 1 a.m. or something like that. Because they had promised us a hotel, we didn't get any blankets. So now my kids are sleeping on the floor. Fortunately, the baby's bag has a bassinet, so she slept comfortable the whole night. But our 3 older kids slept on the floor. They are 9, 6, and 4 years old now. My wife and I also slept on the floor. We didn't have any blankets. It was freezing in the airport. Aside from the cold, I just had a sport coat on that I tried to cover myself with, but I was still just freezing, shivering, and we had one of those rolling walkways near us that just kept saying, "Watch your step," every couple of minutes. So trying to sleep with that was really entertaining. But anyway, at around 2 a.m. I decided to look at my app, and the flight that they had scheduled for 8 a.m. Delta was already delayed. And at about 4 a.m. my wife, she couldn't sleep either, so she goes and looks at the thing, counts the board, and Delta has already canceled 21 flights by 4 a.m. So we were like, this flight's going to get delayed again. We eventually, in the morning, leave for Minneapolis. We were in the airport for over 24 hours. Kids slept on the floor. We leave for Minneapolis. That flight was fine. We get to Minneapolis. They told us that everybody who checked anything was going to have their things at the airport. Of course, when we got to Minneapolis, our stroller and car seat did not make the airport. So we had to put our 9-month-old baby just in a front forward-facing car seat to get home, and we live about 40-ish miles from the airport. So that was really frustrating, but at least they eventually sent our car seat and stroller to our house. We didn't have to go and pick it up. And aside from that, they gave me and one of my daughters miles, and they gave my wife vouchers, and we have tried to get cash refunds from them instead, and they are just being obstinate and very difficult to contact and to communicate with. Delta, just give us our money back. That was our trip. That was not our trip, but our flying experience. So if you have to go anywhere, the other airlines aren't any better either. If it's outside of driving distance, good luck. Try not to check bags if you don't have to, because those will be delayed or lost. And yeah, good luck. Hope everybody's doing well. Love you all. Have a great weekend.